Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Devotionals in Mark. My name is Ben Fury. I am one of the deacons here at North Park Baptist Church, and today we're going to be in Mark 6, verse 45 through 51. And we'll pick the narrative up right after Jesus had fed the thousands, and we'll pick it up there. Immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, he went up on a mountainside to pray. When evening came, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and he was alone on the land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars, because the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out, because they all saw him and were terrified. Immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." When he climbed into the boat with them, the wind died down. They were completely amazed. Valley. Pick the story up. Jesus had just fed the thousands in the crowd, and he immediately sends the disciples across the lake. The Sea of Galilee is built like a bowl with two holes in the end, so it creates a natural wind tunnel. And we know that the Sea of Galilee is very common for pop-up storms to happen, big winds, and that is where the disciples find themselves. They've spent all day in the hot sun of the Judean sun, and they've been mixed in with this crowd of people helping serve, move people around. And Jesus immediately puts them in a boat and sends them across the lake. So it says that Jesus saw them when they were about in the middle of the lake. So that's about 3.5 miles across. And that's where he sees them struggling against the wind. And it says about the fourth watch is when Jesus goes out to them. And the fourth watch is between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So think about the disciples have been up all day, and now they've been rowing all night long. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to row upstream or against a strong wind, but it can become very discouraging and very exhausting because you're working so hard, but you're not getting anywhere. And that's probably where the disciples are at. They're completely exhausted, and they are about the point where they're probably all saying, let's just quit and wait until the wind dies down and start rowing again. We'll just go back to the other side. But that's where we pick, Jesus sees them, and I feel like a lot of people see God and Jesus as someone he's out there. He's looking at us, seeing us struggle in life, and he's on the outside. But it shows here that Jesus did not stay on the outside on the shore, but that he walked out to the disciples, that he walked into the situation. And by all means, Jesus could have just stopped the storm on the land, but no, he enters into that situation like he enters into our struggles and our trials and our difficulties in our lives. And it says, as Jesus walks out there, the disciples see him and they're afraid because they think he's a ghost. And back then, they believed that everything had their spirits everywhere. And so if they're seeing someone walking on water and they're completely exhausted, I bet they're looking at each other like, are you seeing this? And they all realize that they're all seeing the same thing, and that's when they become afraid and they think Jesus is a ghost. But Jesus says, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. And the wind and the sea is kind of like the world we live in. It's chaotic. There's a lot of fear and anxiety. Right now we're dealing with a pandemic where if you watch the news and you see social media, you see people everyone's afraid. They don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But God tells us that we need to take courage and not be afraid. It reminds me of Joshua 1:9, and it says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And Jesus says, take courage, don't be afraid. Jesus is the calm within the storm. We see as he enters in the boat that the wind stops immediately. We as Christians should represent Christ here on earth. We should be the calm within the storm. As you see people around us that are afraid, we need to be different. We need to be like Christ. We need to be courageous and without fear. Because, why? Because Christ is with us. He enters into our situations with us. So my question to you today, are you living right now in fear and anxiety? Are you discouraged by what is going on in our world around us or in our own lives? God tells us to be strong and courageous and not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And I'm like everyone else. I'm afraid sometimes. I have anxiety. I get discouraged. But Christ tells us to be courageous and not be afraid. And why is that? For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So my challenge to you today is, what are you looking at? Are you looking at all the fear around you? Are you looking at the storm that's in front of you? Or are you looking at Christ who's standing with you there? We should be strong and courageous because Christ is with us every moment of the day. So I just hope that is an encouragement to you guys to take this opportunity to be strong and courageous. Let our actions and our words bring courage and encouragement to those around us. Thank you.